All right, and then we'll share screen. Okay, so this entire week, knowing care, knowing self, knowing eating, knowing exercise in quotes is all going to be about kind of challenging your assumptions about these things. So, what we think we know, maybe we're wrong. And what does that kind of tell us? So, the first question, I was really kind of blown away uh, by how much some of you have to take care of in this time. So, if we break this down, all of this, all of these little tinies here are basically everything. So, not just one of these things, you're saying, I'm taking care of all this stuff. And if it is your charge to take care of 7 beings, whether they are a pet, a person, a plant, living things, you are going to neglect yourself. Because what we have to understand is that care is a resource like anything else. We only have so much. In order to care a lot about something, you have to not care about a lot of other things. Okay, so kind of keep this in mind as we go through this. So 31% of you, almost a third, have to take care of a brother or sister, right? And I'm assuming this is not necessarily a volunteer. I'm assuming this is a dictation. This person is yours while we are at work or away, etc. Okay. 20% of you, 19%, take care of a pet, right? And also with a puppy here, I think this puppy cannot communicate with me. So, what is it that I do to try to take care of it? How often do I take it out? If it's asleep, do I wake it up? If he's outside playing around and I'm cold, do I say, let's go in when they're having the time of their life, when the snow is coming down, right? Do I take these pauses and do I really consider what this thing might need or what in the situation? Uh, this was, I'm in the situation, but this 12.9% that are taking care of a parent, that's got to be really hard.
Wait, are you gonna check the other?
Yes, yes, I am going to go through all these things. Um, I'm just kind of taking a little bit of time on each. Uh, but gosh, as a child who is fundamentally, traditionally supposed to be taken care of, for you to have to flip and like be a parent to a parent in the time of childhood, it's got to be rough, right? Because again, you also have to take care of yourself in that. So I'll switch over because Angel's really interested in these others, and I am as well. Um, all of these, if I kind of click, you'll see a lot of them are saying it's more than everyone and everything, more than one significant other, everything but the plant, right? Someone said they're and absolutely your truck, right? And I guarantee that this person bought this truck with their own money, which is why they want to take care of it. It is a reflection of their investment, right? Again, mom, sister, and the house. When I talk about the house, which is this blue, right? That means basically everything that has to do with this place that you reside is your responsibility. Cleaning, maintenance. You might go as far as to be like, you call the plumber when something goes wrong. So again, I want you just to consider that when you have 8 things to take care of, you by default forget about yourself. And you by default check on all these other things. And when you have no energy left and are exhausted, you collapse. You don't have that time to check in with yourself. Right. Switching to this next question. This actually, can I come back here? Did anyone in the Zoom put self? Is anyone here part of that 16.4% that they are their primary responsibility? Again, I can't see the chat, so if you could use your mic. Well, that's telling. First off. Oh,
I
we got
did.
someone? Oh, okay. So thank you for that. So do you feel that kind of mom, whomever, kind of takes care of everything and lets you work on school?
Um, I think it's more of I've things for myself. So I'm kind of more of a self kind of person. Like I take care of other people, but like as of lately, it had to be more myself. So I had to be more like self oriented and like really just focus on me. So
Mhm.
if you would have asked like a month or 2 months ago, that would have not been my answer.
You would have been taking care
But
of everybody else.
as of lately, it's had to be myself.
Okay, can I ask you one more general question? Because I know lots going on. I don't necessarily want you to get very personal, but what was the switch from taking care of everybody else to taking care of yourself? You could speak very generally about it.
After a while, I saw myself declining instead of being up there where I put everyone else. And so I kind of had to flip the switch so that I could get myself up to that level so that I could feel what everyone else is feeling of happiness and health and all of that. So I kind of had to take a quick detour to work on myself before I can go back and help everybody else again.
Yes, thank you for that. And I hope I kind of know you, but I think you appreciate that the ability to do that, just to make that switch and not feel guilt and not feel remorse is pretty big. If I relate it back to what we talked about yesterday, the idea of two people drowning, right? If you're underwater pushing that person up, to there's only so much that you can do until you have to start to get to the surface yourself. Um, if I go one tiny step further, when you are when you feel like you have things together, um, do you kind of pop out of your room and note like, oh, these dishes need to be done, let me do those, or oh, this person needs a hug, or this when you're having kind of good days when everything's in order, do you tend to look for ways to help the people in your house or others?
Always.
Okay.
But sometimes you just have to realize that you're always going to have to eventually put yourself first because there are people who, even though they say they have their best interest at heart for you, really don't. So you always kind of have to keep yourself open to the possibility that like not everyone is going to be there for you. Not everyone is who they say they are.
And
So,
and thank you, and I think a big part of that is not are they jerks, but again, they don't really know how. Right? We're talking about care and this thing that people don't really talk about. It's just assumption, like, oh, they know how to take care, or I know how to take care of me. Um, but this idea that we think we know, but we really don't. And when I talk about as well this idea of working on yourself and putting yourself in order, if you are in your room right now, if I were to give you an example, you know, simply look around, and again, not judgment, simply look. Is it neat and orderly, or is it unkempt? Like, is there clothes in the corner that you step over? Is there like a cereal bowl? Or is there, right? So this idea that I'm going to put order to the chaos so that I'm calm and good, or I'm going to learn to be in chaos. So there's things to kind of observe here. So thank you very much for sharing there. With these folks, right, in these next couple circles, let me go big screen so you can kind of see. I'm getting conflicting answers because when I say this person or thing, obviously if it's a plant or a pet, they can't say. This person tells me what they need. 2/3 of you are saying yes. But then when I ask you guess what they need, I get 70%. Right? So either you think it's both, or there's a disconnect between actually being told and making an assumption. For example, if your friend who happens to be with you says, I need a hug, they tell you what they need, then you can offer it to them. Versus you're sitting with your friend, you feel them, see them being sad, and you assume that they want a hug. That's the guess versus the tell, them you being told. So can I have someone respond as to which is it? Are we assuming that telling is actual things, or are we mostly guessing? Are we getting told what is needed, or are we guessing? Which is the actual truth here? What do we think?
It's both.
Okay. Can you
Because
elaborate a little bit?
if you're talking about yourself, you kind of have to think about yourself. You can't really just guess what you need. You have to like talk it out with yourself. And that's same with other people. Like I can't just walk into a room and assume that everyone in that room needs a hug. But if I
Mhm.
listen to each and every person, I'll be like, okay, this is what this person needs to hear. But if I'm like with my closest, bestest friends, I can automatically, just by walking into a room and looking at their facial expressions, automatically know what they need. It depends on the person, who's
Mhm.
like what the situation is, and then in our reality, it depends on if you know that person or if you don't. Sometimes you can guess, sometimes you just have to listen to what's going on, because it's
Right.
really hard sometimes to guess like what everyone needs.
Yeah. And especially when you make that effort to guess and you end up wrong, then there's this like hostility that kind of like, oh, like I was just trying to. And again, the assumption, well, I didn't ask you to, right? There's this hostility that comes from it. So thank you for that. And you hit it on the nose. You asked. You specifically, because people don't like to ask for help. If you are just simply to open up that door and window and say, hey, do you need help with this? It's like my dad, hey, do you need help getting that? And he doesn't want to admit it, but I know he does because he has trouble getting around. Or let me help you with that, right? So how do you help? Because you're saying help is care without overtaking and without having that person ask. Anybody else before we move on want to take a stab at guessing versus being told? Okay. This is even more shocking. You are certain of what they need. Again, can we be wrong? Even if, because we'll
Yes.
see. Okay, thank you for that. We'll see, I do it every day. There's a schedule. But again, beings aren't schedules, people aren't protocols. Are you able to spend time with them in that moment and pay attention? Now, when we say how, again, we kind of fall into that same loop as yesterday. How do you either guess or know what they need? A lot of observation. This is,
Sometimes you don't even have to guess, you don't even have to know. Like sometimes certain people just like they just want someone there. You don't even have to say anything. It's just the presence of knowing that someone is around helps people. Because
yes.
a lot of people don't like to be by themselves. It's a genuine like there are the people who love to be by themselves, but there are also the people who hate being alone. So sometimes it's just a simple fact that being there, you could both be on your phone doing absolutely nothing, but it's the presence of being there that makes someone happy. So you
Yes.
don't even have to know what's exactly going on or what exactly they need. As long as you're there it brings up the energy in the room.
Yeah, you're available, right? Think how often, think about maybe the few, if any, people that you can sit in a room with and not say a word with and be completely comfortable. Do you have that person? Right? Think about that. There doesn't have to be any exhibition of this or that. And I like this one here. I just keep guessing until I get it right. There's kind of an acknowledgement when you get it right. That shifts to here. And how do you know someone or something cares for you? Right? This idea, if I have my basic needs met, remember that pyramid? That's, and it's awesome. I mean, if you don't have clothes or food, you're going to be ecstatic when you have clothes or food, right? But that's the bare minimum. You don't know what you don't know. Give you one more scroll. Affection and attention. Some of us can't stand affection, right? Some of us are completely awkward And when someone comes for a hug, they like slide away because they don't know what to do with that. It's a lot of showing. Now, think about this. I wait until something goes wrong for me to start paying closer attention to things. Half. What if we could spread out our attention to the things that really matter and take care of them before they break? What if we knew how to think and talk and communicate before we had a breakdown that forced us to go to therapy? There is a very specific reason that we do class like this. And there's a very, hopefully, and I don't know, maybe you're not sure, but there should be a therapeutic feel about it. Because maybe this is what education should be. Instead of textbooks, like you are the topic of study. Maybe you're the most important thing, right? But imagine if I could pay attention to my knee and adjust before it broke. Maybe that we would be better off in the long run. 82% of you are saying you get the care you need, which is awesome. But 16% or 19 people of the folks who did it are not. Right? They might be the same ones that have to be the parent right now. This stuff is hard. We have situations that we have to deal with, and nobody is teaching us how to deal with them. We're guessing, making it up as we go. Last question. Care equals spend time with and pay attention to. This was kind of a summary of what I saw. My take on it from yesterday is the 2 words that represent care. Is there anyone here who put false, that I'm missing something?
I put true, but there was like, I also wanted to put false at the same time because like, I feel like sometimes, spending time with someone and paying attention, while that is a part of being cared for, sometimes there can also be a false sense of like attention and time, because someone can spend time with you and still absolutely hate you. They're just doing it so that you don't feel bad.
Yes,
That's
and
like,
thank you, you killed it. Thank you for that, because and again, my assumption was that sincerity was built in, right? Not someone that's sitting with you being like, come on, right? Revving things up. And I hope the other assumption, and thank you, so sincerity is one, but that spending time with and paying attention to is wrapped up in those actions. That paying attention to is to talk with if talking is what's needed. Holding someone's hand if that's what there's needed. Helping them get this thing they're struggling with, that you observe them struggling with. You just give them a hand. You don't say anything, you just help. So that was my intention. So thank you for kind of clarifying that. One more bit, I had another gal second period. She said, you know what? A lot of my friends are far away and I don't get to spend that much time with them. And she internalized this as I don't care about them. She's like, I only got 5 minutes a day to talk with them. That's all we've got. And I paused and I said, think about what you're saying. You've got all this going on and you've got 5 minutes of freedom and you give it to them. That is care. Right? You've got 2 pennies. You've only got 2 pennies to your name and you put them in the Salvation Army bin. Right? And then you have rich people laughing. How dare you? You've only put 2 pennies in there? Like they don't get that it was all you had. It's a biblical story that I'm kind of taking that from. Right? So if you've got 2 minutes, you've only got 2 minutes and you give that to someone, that is care. Just don't forget yourself in that process. Stop sharing. Any thoughts? And actually, I'll stop recording as well.